Just something, a state of mind that you dig yourself in. And if you keep telling yourself, I'm depressed, of course you're going to be depressed.
I'm X. And I'm Ivy, and welcome to Factor Cap, where we just...
What is this?
This is Mystery Talks.
You know, this is more confirmed than 9/11. Then I'll do my intro.
Wow. Let's do it.
And okay, so here it goes. Welcome back, everybody. This is what episode is this?
16.
69.
We're at 16 already?
Oh.
16!
We're that famous, huh? Okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
Guy 2's IQ.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This
Missing a
is
zero,
episode
bud.
number 16 of Mystery Talks. This is just Mystery Talks now. We're not really like a podcast, even though we are, but really aren't. We're just like a group of people having a discussion. The smartest group of people alive is what we are.
160
And
IQ
we're no
minimum.
longer the number one podcast in the world, but we are the number one show in the world. So we're having that transition. So we're still number one at whatever we do. So if we decide to rebrand in the future, whatever it is, we'll be number one at that as well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
welcome back. Hopefully everyone's having a great day or evening or night. I don't know when this will be posted at, but we're gonna get into a deep conversation.
Oh, hi. I'm Guy 1, by the way. Just so you
Oh
know.
yeah,
Oh.
I forgot to say our names. Sorry, it's just I have these intros, you know. So
Ooh.
once again, I'm your host, Thai Express, with my lovely co-host, Guy 1, Guy 2. Welcome back.
Welcome.
All right, thank you guys for being here. And as I was saying, we're getting into a deep conversation tonight. It's gonna be a fun, short, and sweet deep conversation. You can have all those things when it comes to deep convos. Specifically, when it comes to depression, we were just talking about it the other day, and we thought, like, why not have a live show about this? So
You always hear it.
depression, yeah.
You always hear what, depression. People are going under depression. Is depression real? There's all these conversations. I think that inspired us to make this episode this week is to ask the question, is depression
Exactly.
real?
I agree.
You agree?
You agree?
Yeah, you agree.
I agree.
So okay, speaking of depression, so like you said, there's many questions to be had. Like, what is depression? Is it real? Most importantly, I think
It's very real.
looking at the root of depression, like, when did it start? Was it there forever? When did the term start? Coming into place. And one thing that we can say about, like, this, I guess, state of mind, let's call it for now. It's kind of been around forever. I mean, the earliest recordings of depression, even though it wasn't called that back then, having these, like, faulty mood regulations by the brain, genetic vulnerability, or having these stressful life events. So you get, like, these certain, I guess, like this certain mood status you're in, right? In early Mesopotamia, we can start seeing people having these symptoms. Ancient Greece, Chinese, Asian, Egyptian civilizations, they before, though, thought, before science came into play, that all these, type of, like, depressing thoughts were caused by demonic influences, which
Wow.
it's interesting to hear. And I'm going to be that odd one out saying that I still, to this day, believe it's kind of sort of this way.
Really?
I don't agree much so with the science behind, like, obviously, like, to be clear, I agree with the science, that, all these, like, brain chemicals and such going on in your head, like that are kind of showing, that a certain person can be depressed, because this we can study, like, it's factual. But I do not agree with the a fact that, a lot of people say, oh, like, depression is not something you can control, or it's not something that, it can just go away, or it can, it's something that I believe can be treated with a very simple, home treatment, and it's not through pills, it's not through some sort of, scientific big pharma.
Pharmacological treatment.
Exactly. It's not sort of not under any pharmaceutical treatment. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, the actual term depression did began around the 19th century. That's when it was coined, I think. And it was like the modern concept of depression. It was like these disorders, right? These
Yeah,
affective disorders
they
in the
call it
brain.
major depressive disorder. That's
Yeah.
what they label it to psychologists and doctors around the world. That's what they're gonna label depression as. There's a lot of things to it though, but yeah, carry on, Ty.
Yeah, no, I was kind of gonna leave it at that, and then kind of go back and forth with you guys. But yeah, the actual term depression, it was around the 19th century, but the status, quote unquote, of being depressed or feeling melancholic, this is what like the ancient Greeks first called melancholia, um,
Hmm.
and they also it's interesting to see like how different civilizations treated it. And we're gonna put up a link here. um, it's how these different philosophies kind of treated or curing depression. Let's say like in medieval times, like medieval Europeans, you know, they treated these sort of states with either beating, starvation, drowning, imprisonment, even sometimes burning to death. So quite extreme, right? They probably thought of depression as some sort of, like you're a crazy person and we need to handle you in a certain way to the most extreme point where, you I guess that's how they treated it, right? But then you look at the ancient Romans or Greek physicians, it was through they treated this through exercise, music, or these sort of ancient primitive forms of behavioral therapy. So it was much more inclined to what we see in today's age, actually. Maybe so, we can. I guess some people treat their depression today with exercise, music, some sort of therapy. You go to a therapist, you go to see an expert. So, the ancient Greeks kind of had it figured out already. Most of the big thinkers at that time, they kind of have had everything figured out. But quite two different extremes, right? Now,
Yeah.
guy two, what do you think about um, depression in term that do you think it's something that can be cured easily? Or actually, first of all, do you think depression is real? Like, do you think, someone can get, someone can be diagnosed with depression and immediately, they're in this state of mind where like, um, it's like they know they're gonna go through this hard time. They're going through all these emotions, and they think it can only be cured through some sort of therapeutic, seeing an expert or pharmaceuticals. What do you think?
So, in my humble opinion, I believe that depression is not a natural cause, it's man made. Meaning that it is real.
Whoa,
It is real, but however, I don't think you see animals being depressed.
man made.
You might see them be sad from time to time, but I don't. Depression is basically like a hole that you just dig yourself to give like a term for how you feel.
I disagree.
Okay. So you think depression is not
According
man
to
made?
science, the major depressive disorder is strongly genetic and biological. It has nothing to do with the person. It's actually the way their brain is wired.
Sure.
And in order to treat them, you're gonna have to give them drugs.
Sure, but do you think back then, like back in ancient Greek, I believe humans, because they evolved and they got way smarter, they managed to put aside the basic needs of, let's say, having shelter, having food, and being able to reproduce. And they were like, okay, we have all this, so why am I still like? They wanted more, and then this brought basically depression and the feeling of not being satisfied. So I don't think it is real, but it's something that could be cured, and it's just something, a state of mind that you dig yourself in. And if you keep telling yourself, I'm depressed, of course you're going to be depressed. If I kept telling myself I'm happy, well, guess what? I'm going to be happy. It's easier said than done, but I think
Well,
it, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. You're gonna have. Let's talk about what is the characteristics of depression, okay?
Mm.
So it's unwarranted and unending sadness. So you can't enjoy anything. That things like pleasures in life, things that used to be fun, is not fun to you. You are not eating as much. You can't sleep. You're having suicidal thoughts, and you're just weak.
Mhm.
Okay.
Now,
But
you're saying
yeah,
that
no.
can be changed.
Well, yeah, it is some sort of mental disorder, or not disorder, but
Yeah.
mental
Yes.
problem.
Yes. Disorder.
So yeah, so it is. That's what I think. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to say.
No,
Well,
it's definitely some sort of disorder.
Mm.
And according to Harvard University, it is genetic also, as a guy once said. And
Genetically man-made.
maybe, honestly. So
There
I
could be
do
a
agree
reason,
with.
yeah. There's a lot of prevalence now than before, so that's an
Is
interesting
it not?
topic of
Is it not
discussion.
easier to control someone that's depressed than someone that's not?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Is someone that's depressed tend to have more fear?
yeah, I think
And
inferior
fear
people
leads to more
probably
control.
have. I think
And
people who are inferior will have depression more than people who are alpha or
so
superior.
let's say
I
like
see where you're going there. Where you're
also
going, guy too.
and is it not proven statistically? I remember seeing this. If Eder can pull it up. Why is it that in the Western society, let's say America, depression is higher than, let's say, a country that's in war? They don't have time to be depressed in countries that at war. They might be miserable and sad, but they're not depressed. Why is that?
Who told you that?
It was a study. There's a percentage. If
So
Eder
you're
can pull
saying
up.
the characterization of making depression normal in the Western society is something that has a malicious intent as opposed to other countries where they actually care about the people and they're saying, hey, be a man,
Well,
have
they
these
don't really
goals.
they don't really care about the people, both places, because if they did, they wouldn't be in war. But what I'm trying to say is that it is a name that makes it they're trying to normalize it. How they're trying to push all the LGBT community into kids, right? They're trying to normalize it from a young age.
Yes,
Same
yes.
thing with depression. They're trying to label it as, oh, if you're like more than just sad, it's okay. It's normal. You're just depressed. Just take these pills. Take these pills, and become more addicted. Give us money because we need money in the pharmaceutical department, and you get to become more of a sheep, and you get to be more. You get to have more fears, and we can control you easier, right?
So I think we can factually say, and I see that I'm kind of just throwing this out there, but actually, I'm not gonna say factually because I'm just gonna throw this out there. But can we say that? Okay, for people that go to therapy, for most people that go
Scam.
to therapy, do
Scam.
they come out better or worse?
I'd say they would be more inclined to come back.
Better or worse?
Depends on. I'd say most of the time in America, I'd say worse.
And why is that?
And why is because they only get paid if you come back.
Exactly.
If you come back, you gotta feel the same way.
It's a
which
business.
Is not good.
Like a good therapist,
Unfortunately.
would have no clients.
Yes.
And also,
Or
forget
a lot of clients, because he treats their clients or no.
But
He
if-
doesn't
if-
have
but-
a good therapist wouldn't have recurring clients.
But if he had good clients, he would basically fix society. If all therapists, let's say, did their job properly, you know.
Yeah.
But also, the whole job of a therapist is basically hearing negative thoughts 24/7. I would actually get depressed if someone, I would just sit there and listen to people's problems all day. Wouldn't you just, if you were in a negative energy, like Law 10,
You want money.
Law 10, 48 laws of power,
Yeah, and also
negativity has no reversal. It's basically if you're with someone that's negative, there's no benefit. It's a lose-lose situation. So if you're
But
in
also,
a negative state of mind every day, you're gonna be negative,
but
and you're
also
not
to
gonna
add
be able
on
to
to
able to
that,
help people. You're gonna kill yourself. You're gonna make them kill themselves and then kill yourself. I don't think we can say that word. You have to censor it, but
Yes.
commit suicide. No, but to add on to what you were saying,
do the act.
uh, a lot of people that go to therapy, they immediately get diagnosed. They immediately get put onto some sort of pills, like without any sort of like trying to because to everything there's a cause, right? And instead of looking at the root, treating the cause, they're kind of just um, making you like they're giving you something like in a like a pill form, for example, to make you feel better, but for a certain amount of time. It's only
Well, it's
it's like
temporary.
this. Yeah, it's like a temporary fix to the problem.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
not actually fixing the
And that
problem.
doesn't matter. We don't care about temporary. We care about long-term solutions. So anyone who wants
Okay.
to
Exactly.
go to the
Well, let's just assume. Okay. Right now we're making assumptions, right? We're not. None of us are therapists, right? Let's just assume. Let's say I am let's say I'm a therapist, okay? And then I have guy one as my client.
yeah.
So what my job is to make him comfortable, right? I have to make you comfortable to speak out and tell your problems, like for you to be vulnerable. So that doesn't take one session. It's going to take a few, right? Especially for men. I can't speak of women because as of last time I've checked, I'm not a woman. So for that, I it's gonna take a few sessions, and per session, it's not cheap. So that guy is making bank, and he's not gonna try to make you vulnerable from the first sessions. He's gonna take his time, right? And that's sort of a business, and I think it is kind of demonic because it's profiting of something immoral, right? But there's also, you could say, reversal. Like for some people they need it because they have no one else to talk to, right? They're so
Right.
lonely. That I do understand. But for if someone has any person, they just don't want to share their problems, but they should, because if you don't speak out, then you're gonna hold it in, and then you're gonna either commit arson or a
Okay.
sewer slide. Commit fuck. Yeah.
Here I have one interesting statistic here. This comes directly from a non-profit organization. So
Thank you
because
for
it's a
specifying.
non-profit, who knows how reliable they are, but this is the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. And they've
Well, they're
come out
gonna
with
say
some
it's
statistics
normal.
here that women were almost twice as likely uh, than men to have depression. Why is that?
I would say body standards and social media comparisons, but I also just think the lack of the dynamic that women are placed into makes it more common for them. But that's one other conversation we'll have. But I just
Yeah.
another thing I
Yeah.
want to say would be the character, like the biology of a woman, is actually a little different than a man, and I feel like
A
the
little.
environment, the brain,
Yeah, but here's a one important point to note is that women are a lot more emotional than men, right?
and that's what I was
And when
gonna
it
get
comes to
to.
depression, there's a lot going on with your emotions specifically. Men
Mm.
aren't as emotional. So if it's something that's rooted with emotions, like negative emotions or bad, mood statuses, uh, it does make sense that women do get more depressed. But if that's the case, if we scrap out, the fact that let's say it can be something genetic, right? And all humans are the same. We all have an equal amount to get depressed. But given that women are more emotional and they're twice as much in their lifetime to get to be depressed or to be diagnosed with depression. Specifically, another finding here from the same association, they say 1 in 8 women experience depression in their lifetime. So that's twice the rate as men. 1 in 8 women. So imagine out of a whole population, right? You're just walking around the city. every 8 women you pass by, one of them is oppressed, and that is a very high number if you think about it. How many women are you passing by every day on the streets?
Question: do you think this has a
Yes,
correlation with America destroying family households?
Yes,
Households.
yes, and I was just
one
gonna
hundred
say
percent.
that the fact that they don't have a nice relationship and it's encouraged
Yeah.
to, you know,
Like
man and boy to be
I'm
women and man to
when
be
also
women.
when I say a household, obviously when you look at a household, you look at a typical man and woman, right? However, as we've seen, it is possible for it to be two women.
Which I think
And
means I think they're confused.
uh,
It's like that.
listen, I do agree with you. However, I think it's not my duty to tell them how to live, and
That is true.
it's so I don't care what they do. Personally, you can do whatever you want as long as you don't force it into others. Like that's it. It can go. It doesn't have to be just with. Like there's people, let's say, who are extremely religious and they're trying to force other people to convert. It goes
Yeah.
same thing as that. So like if ever you're a lesbian, you're gay, whatever, keep it to yourself. Sure, but it's like it's still like when you're with someone else, you have less chances of being depressed. So it does help in this scenario, right?
Yeah.
But they're destroying the whole household. So
I agree.
Yeah, there's a lot of negatives outcome in society in general when you attack the nuclear family,
yeah,
kind of in all aspects of life. And I guess, yeah, this can be another one. Women who are lonely, women who don't have a family, don't have a husband.
yeah,
They don't really have that mentality of, having a family, and they consider themselves independent. They go on to work their all their lives, kind of be a slave to the government and to society, because they don't want themselves to be a slave or feel like a slave to their husband, but they're okay with being a slave to society, to the government, to their boss at work. They're okay with that as long as they have this feeling that they're empowered over themselves, which is false, I would say. There's no such thing as, like, at the end of the day, men and women, we're all under the same umbrella, and we're all being slaves to the government. As long as we're paying taxes, we're basically slaves to the government.
Yeah. And
And
the depression doesn't help.
yeah,
no,
the depression definitely doesn't help. It is interesting that, any case, depression can occur at any age, and because women are twice as likely to feel or be diagnosed with depression, just because they're more emotional beings, it does say a lot about, you know, kind of how this state of mind or this illness comes into play. And again, I would like to say I'm more inclined towards the idea that it does occur due to not necessarily being genetic. Like, genetics can have some sort of play into this, but uh, that is also that you can tell yourself, and kind of you're kind of telling your brain also that, oh, because you're more inclined to be depressed, you're probably gonna be more depressed. You're kind of setting yourself to failure for that path. And I think everything that we do in our lives, whether the people that we hang out with, the type of content that we're watching online, the sort of imagery that we see in movies, the sort of society that we're around, the society that's around us, like, everything, all of these factors can have a big play into whether you can feel depressed or not. So if you're around a bunch of losers, if you're around a bunch of people that are negative, if you're only seeing movies, TV shows, you're listening to music that is all negative, sad, or doesn't
but
have any
it's
sort
your
of,
habits.
yeah,
It's the
doesn't
things you
have any
do.
sort of uplifting mood to yourself, like, yeah, it's your habits, and that I think is what truly causes depression, or this feeling of depression, right? Because again, I don't really believe in this, like,
Yeah.
obviously I believe that you can be, obviously, like, sad, and I'll have also these sorts of emotions. That's normal, everybody has them. But I don't believe that, when people are diagnosed with depression, and that's immediately when, like, everything goes downhill for them, because they had a professional diagnose them with depression, they automatically, it's like they flip a switch and like, okay, I'm depressed, I'm diagnosed, so this is
Well,
real now. It's a
listen,
reality.
these are the same professionals that still deny that COVID was man-made. What that came from a lab.
And
These are
that's
the
a
same.
whole other topic as well.
Yeah, but I'm saying like how it's nowadays. You cannot trust the quote unquote professionals
Yeah, they don't
because
really care about you.
yeah,
They care about themselves.
there's a really good podcast clip. It was Neil deGrasse Tyson, as a very
Yeah.
famous,
Astrophysicist.
and Patrick Bet David, and they had a conversation about COVID, and then Patrick was saying that how they basically forced vaccines upon people, and they had this debate, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson got so angry and so emotional, and he basically had no fact checks. He was just speaking because he was trying to defend scientists when clearly he had no proof, and you could
Yeah.
see the backlash that he got. And me, as like someone who didn't know much, but I still had respect for him for what he had done, I lost some sort of respect because this guy just, you could tell that he knew his opponent was right, but he didn't want to
You don't want to
say
admit
it.
it. Right.
So like these are the same
Yeah.
these are the same scientists that people are putting their trust in. These are the same people that they go to pharmacies and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
give me this pill, refill me this shit."
Yeah.
So
and,
that I
and
yeah.
yeah, no, sorry, but yeah, just to say, because like you said, Neil deGrasse Tyson got furious, right? He got pissed because he was basically hearing things he didn't like or didn't agree with.
Yeah.
And that's just we can call that a mood swing, right? We can call that a mood swing.
But it was
Same
more.
as
That's it.
same
But
as
it's-
depression. People that are depressed, quote unquote, that they feel depressed, it's there's a cause to it. They either
They're hiding
something
something.
something
It's
traumatic happened in their life, or something they listened to, something that happened, some sort of event. You know, it's outside factors that aren't caused by yourself, or actually no, they can also be caused by yourself. It depends what kind of lifestyle you're having, but I would say mostly by outside factors that you cannot control. They let these outside factors dictate their life, therefore they have this depressed state of mind. And this is a good example, like which it's some can somewhat correlate, because humans, we don't like hearing stuff that isn't like whether
Isn't
it's something we
comforting.
don't whether it's something that is we don't agree with, something that's not comforting for us exactly, something that it doesn't align with our values or whatever.
yeah.
We tend to have these mood swings. We get either happy, angry, furious. We have all these sorts of emotions. Therefore, logic goes out the window. We're not robots, right? So it's normal. This is a normal human thing to have and to be
Well,
and to feel.
It
Now,
shows
some people,
weakness. It shows weakness when
here's the thing.
you're in
Now,
that state.
some people do kind of, have this kind of superpower where they don't let these emotions dictate their day-to-day lives. And I think also that there's a big people that are very stoic, I would say, kind of have this superpower. And also people don't like stoics in general. People don't like when you meet someone that's not very emotional or that doesn't show a lot of emotion, it's not a pleasant feeling for most people. They want to have some sort of reciprocity when it comes to this emotional exchange of ideas or mood swings or whatever. It's not normal for the human when you have some sort of interaction with someone, and it has an inclination to have some sort of mood where you get a very angry or very sad, and the person you're having this interaction with is not very responsive, is not very is not being it's not giving you the same amount of emotion.
Yeah, he's basically
we
being a
dislike
robot.
that.
Yeah.
We dislike that,
But
and it doesn't feel normal. So
I'll-
that's
I'll-
why I would say some humans kind of do have like this superpower, and I would say in a way they're superior and because they kind of ground themselves with reality. And the reality is that no matter what you feel in life, no matter how you let, outside factors dictate your life, um, the world keeps spinning. Nature doesn't stop for you. And, you can, when you have complete control of your mind, when you have complete control over yourself, you can actually be at the peak of humanity. You can really be like at the peak of yourself. You don't necessarily have to be sad all the time because it's at the end of the day, your mind, like obviously your brain can have all these chemical reactions and you can have these momentary, feelings of negative emotions, but at the end of the day, if your mind is powering your brain, if your mind is the one that controls your brain, then again, like you said, the guy, too easier said than done, right? Not
Yeah.
99% of people can do it, and
Right.
they'll get mad at us saying this, but
Yeah.
that's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I have
I
a
agree.
question for guy one.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say because Ty, you were talking about how music can play a big role in someone's state of mind, or
Yep.
like anything they watch. Like, and let's say I had a phase where I was extremely sad. Not extremely. That's a big word. I was sad, and my comfort was music, right? Depressing
Right.
songs, and
Yeah.
that was my comfort. And I didn't realize that I was just stuck in this bubble until someone basically broke me out of it. And it took a long time, right? And I realized that music does play a big uh, correlation. And for guy one, have you experienced something like that?
Have I experienced it?
Where you,
No.
you dug yourself into like a hole. It could be also, it doesn't have to be negative. It could be positive, let's say.
Oh. If we're
Where
regarding music,
music, it could be for me it was music, so it could be like anything. Let's say you watch something, it like you just went in like a rampage of just watching bunch of like positive or negative anything. You just basically got like stuck in a loop, and that whatever you were consuming also dictated how you were feeling.
hmm, I see.
Did you have something like that?
Mm, I'm just trying to think. I mean, when I'm listening to music, it's more so to get myself in a certain mood. Um, for example, if you have like large rap music, you're trying to, go heavy in the gym or something. But I'm not thinking of something that I did. Maybe watch TV shows to drown myself out if something happened and not think about it.
Hmm.
But I think it's important to face the reality and be bold and embrace the emotions. And then I think you can tie this to relationships with people. Like, if you're in a relationship with a girl, don't cower away if there's an argument. Embrace an argument and have, conversation and say how you feel and set your tone. And, one thing that I think a lot of people who are depressed do is they'll find ways to drown themselves out. We call it drowning from reality. So they listen to music, like you said.
Like an
They're not
escape.
in, they're not enjoying what's around them. Like let's say if you're working and you're doing a construction and you put music in your headphones instead of hearing the birds, I don't
Yeah.
know, sing or just have conversations with people, you're just drowning yourself out and it's in the short term it feels nice, but it's not getting you anywhere. You're just drowning yourself out because when you go home, you're just gonna think, oh, I'm still depressed, man. Oh, why can't I just go back? And then you want to listen to music more, and you're creating that dependency, which has no effect. So it's the same thing. It's a similar relationship like taking those drugs because they help you short term, but long term gets you nowhere. So that drowning yourself out, whatever it may be, like you said, music or like a TV show or something, habitually can, deter you from reality. And the key thing here is, like you said, brain over mind, or rather, mind to control your brain, where you are, facing the reality. You're forcing yourself, hey, this is how it is, and I'm accepting it. And I think people who go to war, like we were talking about, is a perfect example because they're telling themselves, hey, I'm in war right now. I don't have time to be thinking and drowning myself out and all this. Because I saw some videos of like people in Ukrainian war. They didn't want to go, so like they had to break their ankles or something or snap their leg to not go, which
Mhm.
I think is a coward thing. I think you go because you're representing your country.
But what if your country is corrupted and you know that, and that the chances you die are there?
Well,
So
then I wouldn't be in
aren't
that
you?
country in the first place.
Well,
Uh,
well, that's the thing. They didn't choose to be in that country. This is a whole scenario, but I'm just like saying, I don't think that's fair to say because
Well, I just want to say right now we're kind of diverging into like a different topic of conversation. And if we just want to stay on track, I want to add on to something about the whole music and depression.
mm-hmm.
But sorry to call you guys off. Just to add on to what you were saying about like how
Apology
kind of music
accepted.
can also dictate, you know, your lifestyle, or how can it affect, you know, your certain depression. Well, if we're looking at music, like first of all, when music was first created, do you think people were happy or sad when music was first created?
I would assume happy.
yeah.
Correct. Music in general was first, I guess, discovered, created, invented, whatever you want to call it, when like these because music has been around for the longest time ever. Thousands of
Yes,
years since the
yes,
beginning of
yes.
time. And like literally when these first like cavemen, right? We're talking well, we're putting like two objects together that made a sound and kind of just playing around with these different sounds and started creating some sort of melody to it. They got excited, they got happy because it created this, you know, this exciting melody for them, and they you know they just it created some sort of excitement and joy, and it brought people together.
Yep.
And that's been the case since today. Like the whole point of music, it's about bringing people together, bringing in joy. So for now in modern times, there's so much music that is quite the opposite of that. There's so much music for people that are lonely and depressed, music that is sad, music that has some sort of negative melody, or the lyrics are negative. And this kind of is just another factor adding on to these, yeah, to these like delusions that people have when they're like either self-diagnosed or they got diagnosed by like a professional,
But the thing
and
is,
they kind of seclude themselves from society as well. And they like you were saying, they just dig themselves a hole because they're going down this rampage of, you know, letting this negative music affect dictate their lives.
I,
And but
I
yeah.
was just gonna say something because I saw this conspiracy again. It's not it's a conspiracy. It's not proven, but back in the World War II, the Nazis would use a certain frequency to basically on the radio whenever there were speeches, and that frequency was because it was proven that it makes people more attentive, so they listen better.
Well, you know what
And
that is called? That is a form of communication, actually.
yeah,
So music and sound is also a form of communication. It was
but
also used
wait,
during, like you said. Okay, continue. Sorry, I'll let you finish your point.
yeah, because also we're short on time. So I also because it there was a conspiracy that nowadays a lot Spotify and Apple Music use the same frequency to basically
Yeah.
control minds. And I this is not proven. I have no facts for this. It was just a conspiracy, but it is still interesting that it's not impossible, right? And it would make a lot of sense. So
Well,
it
it's not a conspiracy to say, uh, for example, it's not a conspiracy to say that certain frequencies do affect certain parts of your brain. That's a fact. Like I don't know uh, the exact terms for it. I don't remember. Let me see. Uh, we can find it here. Like like let's say I think it's called the prefrontal cortex. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if that's the one that that's the main part of the brain that activates when you either see something or hear something that is good, or either good or negative, right? That's like I think that's the main part of the brain that's meant for that. But yeah, so that's not a conspiracy saying that certain frequencies do have a certain effect on the mind, on the brain. So it's not such a conspiracy theory to say that, you know, these big corporations or the music industry is using certain sounds to kind of uh, control the masses.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, how yeah, this is also like some sort of communication form, and you were back to the you were saying when you were talking about war, a lot in ancient times, during war, they would use these sort of big instruments like whether it was like drums or trumpets to whether it was like for marching. They kind of use these sort of sounds for either to communicate, or it was to entice, a certain battle was about to begin. So music is all around. It's been around for since it's been around since forever. Sorry. And now it's mostly used for actually I don't want to say mostly, but is used a lot for negative like a very negative aspect of our lives, I would say. And when people are depressed or they feel depressed, they kind of lock themselves in a box, I would say, and they don't have that willpower to kind of unlock themselves from this box that they put themselves in, because
Well, they're
they
blinded.
believe
They're blinded.
they've declined this idea that is something that can just be easily cured by just thinking about literally, okay, I'm not actually depressed. I can be happy by just doing better, by just being better, doing good things. So this is completely rejected, this idea. It's completely far-fetched from society, and you're a lunatic to say if nobody just they nobody just like auto diagnose themselves with depression. It's like all these scientific blah 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 scholar, like, yeah, honestly, I don't give a fuck. These people are are depressed. They stay depressed because of all these factors, and they don't, like, again, they don't have I would say the willpower to work
Yeah.
to strive to be better for themselves.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. That's a really well put. Like, it's ask yourself, who do you want to live under, right? Which life do you want to live under? Someone that's telling you depression isn't real and see how their lives are, or someone that is honest with you and saying, hey, you can hold yourself accountable and see
Yeah.
your life there.
But that's the thing about humans, they don't like hearing this, and they'll get mad at you when you say this,
No,
because
but
it's not like like I too said again, it's easier said than done. And we understand this, by the way, to our audience
yeah.
watching. We don't want to offend anyone, but we know that
We
it
do.
is
We
something
do.
that is very tough, and we comprehend it.
But listen,
It's
listen. If you're offended, there's a problem. Okay, being
Well,
offended is
we
there's.
want to just spread the message. I think that's the key thing here in
Yeah,
Mystery
I know.
Talks. We don't want to convince anyone, but
Mhm.
this was
Yeah.
a great discussion.
So yeah,
I
Yeah,
closing
it is.
closing statement. Short and sweet. Any last words? Guy one, Ty.